Hey guys, so today I wanted to get into something called Ansible. Ansible is a super sweet little tool and it allows you to run remote commands on a ton of remote machines from a centralized source. So that means you can push configuration changes, updates, or you can reboot everything in your home environment just from one button press. You can build playbooks for just about anything that you want to do, and it allows for super sweet central automation and management of a ton of downstream objects. So I'm pretty excited to get into it today. Okay, so before we really get into installing and configuring Ansible, I wanted to talk a little bit about the security impacts and things to be aware of with Ansible. So, with the nature of the tool, it needs to SSH to everything that you are going to control with it. So it needs access to SSH, and that could open your network up a little bit in ways that you weren't expecting. For instance, if you have a segmented network and you have to run all these different routes, for example, my home lab I run it in a manager network, so I actually create routes explicitly around what can see what. Now, Ansible's got a lot of power now because it can see a lot of things in my environment, which is why I place it in a more restrictive network, which is the manager network in my case. Now, if you've got a flat home lab or a home lab or home network that everything can see everything already, that's not that big of a deal for you, but that's something to be aware of. Okay, so next there are some options that I am going to pick in this tutorial that you might want to change or manipulate in your own environments. So it's good to understand those as we come to them. And I will speak a little bit about those when we get to them in the guides and why I chose kind of exactly what I chose, and then give you maybe a couple different options that you might consider in your own environments. Alright, so now it's time to actually get into Ansible and get it installed. So first things first, like you would with anything, just go ahead and update the system. That's super simple. I'm running Ubuntu, but you should know how to update any machine that you're sitting in front of. Sudo app update, then and sudo app upgrade for Ubuntu Debian systems. It's got one package that just defers. That's all good. I am fully up to date. Okay, now it's pretty simple. Sudo apt install Ansible. Okay, it runs. Yes, install it. Bada bing, bada boom. Wait for that to install. Alright, that is done and installed. Let's go ahead and do a clear again. A good way to check just to make sure that it got installed is to do an Ansible and then do a -- version. And if you get output Ansible installed, we are good to go. Okay, clear again. So one thing we want to go ahead and do is set up some directories that we're going to come back to later. So that's pretty easy. Sudo mkdir. And if you're curious, I will show my blog here in a little bit. Link will be in the description. I have all these commands already ready for you to copy and paste should you want to right out of my blog. So sudo mkdir, we're gonna make etc ansible. Okay, once that's good, we are ready for the next step. Alright, so now that we have Ansible all installed, our directory is ready to go, it's time to generate a key for key-based authentication over to our other SSH hosts on our network. So that command is pretty dead simple. It's just ssh-keygen. Go ahead and run this. I'd recommend you just keep it, the name of it, and just what the default name is here. Unless you've already got one named like that, you can name it whatever you want. We're just going to go ahead and hit enter to keep it the same. Now, this passphrase is one of the decisions that I was alluding to earlier, but Ansible, that you might want to think about or adjust in your own environment. So I create no passphrase because you can't have passphrases with Ansible because that'll break the automation. Because if you think about it, if you have 15 hosts that you're connecting to, it's going to prompt you for a password 15 different times in that playbook. That's ridiculous. So I don't run a password. I think the key is pretty secure enough. Again, I take great efforts in securing this Ansible machine itself. But something else that you could do to explore to increase the security a little bit is run something called SSH agent, and that's something that you can just start once per session and add your key. That way, it only asks for the passphrase just one single time, then it'll cache it for every other hosts that you run in that key, and that can be a good option for some people as well. Again, it really kind of comes down to what your network looks like and what your overall security posture looks like, because I think if you can secure the host good enough, this is more secure on paper, but is it realistically more secure in practice? I don't really think so. You'd have to compromise my Ansible box to get this stuff anyways, and if you've got my Ansible box, then you probably got all the cookies you want anyways. So, yeah, your mileage may vary, but that's one of the options that I wanted to bring up. So in my case, and what I would normally do, even in enterprise environments, I will just hit enter for no passphrase, and then enter again for no passphrase. And there we go, our key is created. Okay, so now that we have our key generated, we can move on to the next step, which is really configuring our connections to our remote hosts. What I like to do here is create a dedicated Ansible user on each remote host that allows me to get away with passwordless sudo, which is pretty slick for Ansible and is the least complicated way to get it working the way that I want it. Something else that you can do is utilize Ansible Vault to store those sudo passwords on those remote connections, so you don't have to use passwordless sudo, but that adds quite a bit of complexity to the build in the sense that you need to, say you have 15 different remote hosts. Now you have to keep track of 15 different sudo passwords, and that just adds quite a bit of complexity in the build. So with creating a user and then doing special security measures around that user, like setting up limited shells and restricting password logins, I can get away with passwordless sudo but still have a really good blend of security and complexity. So this is the approach that I like the best, and it's what I use in my environments, and it's the one that I'm going to show you guys today. I have made a script that's on my blog post that actually automates all of that user creation, directory creating, limiting password login, all that stuff. It's pretty much a point and click push button script. It's pretty slick, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So to use that script, all you gotta do is just come over to my blog post, find the script about halfway down, click copy, come over to a text editor or a notepad or something like that, and just go ahead and dump it in there. Scroll up. We need to edit this line with the public key that we just created. That is the only modification that we need to make before it is ready to run in our new environment. So something that we can do, jump back to the terminal. If you didn't keep note of what that key file was named, just run this command right here. And again, that's in the blog post if you need it. That is ls-la and then ssh.pub. Run that. That will show you all of the public keys that you have created with the ssh keygen command. Now I've only got the one, so I'm just going to copy that path. Then I'm going to run cat. I'm going to cat it, and this is the contents of the public key file. I'm just going to copy it directly, just like that. Okay, and then I'm going to come back over to my script file here, and I'm just going to clear out everything in these quotation marks and then paste my new key. And once it's in there, that all looks good. I'm just going to copy that whole operation. I'm going to walk over to one of my remote hosts on the terminal. So, clear that out. This is a simulated another machine in this lab environment that I'm going to run Ansible on. So I need to create my Ansible user. All I have to do is just right click, paste, dumps the script right in there, just hit enter, enter my sudo password, bada bing bada boom, it is built, set up, and that is as easy as that. I run it on one more of my machines that I want to run, paste, bada bing bada boom, sudo password, done. It's that easy. I love this script. It makes it so easy to scale. And this is a great blend of security and complexity. I'm really happy with this solution. So something to note is if you want to manage the local host as well with Ansible, and you want to run any sudo commands, on that side, you need to run the script on the Ansible node itself, because we need passwordless sudo to be able to invoke those commands. So that's pretty simple. Just take your script and dump that right back into Ansible like we just did with everything else. Hit enter, and bada bing bada boom, that's it. You are ready to rock. Just like the others. Now that one didn't ask me for a sudo password because I had already entered it recently, so it might ask you. Just same thing. Just type in your sudo password. That script automates all the creation for you. Okay, so now that the users are created everywhere, localhost and remote hosts, we need to create a host file. And that file just basically tells Ansible what machines you want it to connect to and run these playbooks on. So that's pretty simple to do. We're just going to create a new file under etc Ansible. Then we're going to call it hosts, just like that. And this directory should already be created based on what we did earlier. If not, we'll need to go ahead and create the etc Ansible directory. But we should already have it. So just run that, put in your admin account, and this is how this file should look. Now I've got an example of this format in my blog. You can just paste right over. But a good little rundown is you have your IP addresses of the remote hosts you want to connect to, and then the user that you want Ansible to try to use to authenticate to those remote hosts. If you followed my guide and set up the users, this will just be Ansible. So you don't have to change anything there, just leave the default, but you will only want to update your IP addresses. This is a group of hosts called remote hosts. You can name this whatever you want. Remote hosts is what this one's named. And then if you want to manage the local hosts, create another group, call it local, and have this information just right here. And that will allow you to run Ansible commands on the local host as well when you run playbooks, which I assume you probably want to do. So I'd go ahead and include it. It's really no harm, no foul if you include it in here and end up using it down the road. So yeah, so once you have that file set up, just go ahead and save it. So now we get to see if all this worked, or if we mess anything up to this point. So we want to test our connections, and that command is ansible all-m ping. So this is just going to run a simple, just basically are you there command to all the remote hosts that we just configured. And if we get a ping and a pong back, then it should be good. So fingers crossed, here we go. We run. The first thing it might ask us is to go ahead and verify the authenticity of the key. So that's fine. We're going to click yes. And then we're going to type yes one more time. So it's kind of different right here. It's a weird format, I know. You can see it asked me for it twice. Okay, so yes, no fingerprint, two different locations. So I'm just going to type in yes twice, even though the format looks kind of weird. Yes and enter, and then boom. That worked great. So that whole typing yes just happened out of the gate on the first try. Once we've accepted those keys, it should be fine. So now we're just going to do a ping again just to make sure. And there it is. Ansible connected successfully to all of our remote hosts and the local host. So we're in great shape to move on and actually start automating some stuff with some playbooks. So to get started making playbooks, we need to first create a directory to store those playbooks in. And we're actually going to do that off of our home directory. And the reason we do that instead of out of the etc directory is because it's a bit better practice for Ansible to run things out of your home directory, so not all those configuration files and playbooks are global across the system. Plus, we don't need sudo to edit in here, which is pretty nice. So I'm just going to do, you can name this kind of whatever you want to. I'm just going to do an mkdir Ansible playbooks, just like that, and then cd into Ansible playbooks. And then I actually provide on my blog post a pretty good little introduction playbook that updates and forces reboots on everything in the host file. That is Ubuntu or Debian based, something that uses the app repository. So if you want to use it, absolutely feel free to. It's on my blog post. Just pop on over to it. Just like the other thing, hit copy, come back into your terminal, okay? And I'm just going to call this nano update.yml for .yaml. And I'm just going to hit paste, just like that. And that's really all you have to do. Now, something to note, this script does have a built-in failure point. I forced reboot the local host, which will actually fail. Ansible won't let you do that because it would lose connection to itself in the play. You can update itself, but it won't let you reboot itself. Not like this anyways. So I keep that on specifically so I can remember to reboot the local host when I'm running these plays. But if that you find that annoying or don't want errors in your playbook, totally understand that. You can just comment this out, it's like that, or just totally get rid of it should you wish. But anyways, just come out, save that. That is good to go. All right, now that we have the playbook ready to go, we can run a dry run with a special flag that Ansible provides called check. So that's a really good idea to run on any new playbook that you're creating to test in your environment, because obviously you can break things with this pretty easy. So checks are phenomenal. So anything we can do to reduce the risk of breaking stuff unnecessarily, we like to do. So from the directory of Ansible playbook, well, whatever directory you built and put your playbook in, from that same directory, go ahead and run this command. So it is Ansible-playbook, the name of the play you created, and then check. So hit enter. That starts to run the play. It'll connect to the remote host, update. It'll show you that it would have changed the app packet cache, the app package cache. Installed, everything looking good. Local host it tries to do, runs in two different plays, remote and then local. Then there's that fail that I was talking about earlier that I left in there specifically because I wanted to remember to reboot the remote host, or the local host, I'm sorry. So that looked really, really good. So I'm going to clear that out. Now, something that is really wise to do is this checked really, really well, but it's a brand new play and I'm still kind of unsure about it. Ansible will also let you limit the amount of hosts it's ran on in a one-liner. So that command is just Ansible dash playbook again, and then the name of the play, update that YAML in this case. Then you can run this limit flag and restrict it to a single host. So say I only want to test it on this host. Now I'll run it full bore with no check, and it should update and reboot the machine, and you should see this tab drop out from the side when that happens. So I'm going to test it on just one machine, because if it's still broken and maybe it just didn't catch it in the check, I'm still kind of concerned. I don't want to crash my whole environment with this play I just made. I'm going to run it against one machine. That's generally how I like to do it. I like to do a check followed by just one machine. And now you can see it just ran on the single machine. It's going to run up into that package cache. And this can take us a little bit of time to run. I might fast forward this. See, it's running pretty good. There's the reboot. It dropped out. The tab dropped just like I expected it to. Now, Ansible will wait a certain amount of time that you can configure in the playbook, or there's also a default amount of time as well, to make sure that machine comes back online, because it's going to verify that it came back. So we wait for that. The machine's booting in the background. And there it is. It came back. Change is good. So it did change the app package cache, and it did go ahead and change the status of the boot, which was the reboot that it played. You see this skip here. That's the other play that's wrapped up in the single play. That's something that I didn't really explain earlier when we were in the file. Is there's actually two plays in there, for one for local and one for remote, that I did for you guys. So it's super easy to split those apart if you didn't want both. And it gives you this sweet little recap down here. And that ran great. Okay, so it checked really good on one host. The whole life cycle of the play has been, I created it, I ran it as a dry run check, that looked good. Then I ran it full bore on a single host, that looked good. So now I think I'm ready. I trust this play enough. I'm going to run it across all the hosts in a full test, just as I would in production. So all I got to do is go back to my command, back out that IP address, that limit flag, and just hit enter. And watch it go. Again, it's going to take a little while, but it's connected to everything that it needed to do. It's going to start rebooting machines. You can see that they fell off of my tabs. The machines did, in fact, reboot. Ansible is going to wait for those to come back. There they are. It's moved to the local host now. Updating apps, upgraded itself, and then boom, it failed on the reboot, which is just as we expected, and actually a wanted behavior from me. That's great. That's phenomenal. So we just created our very first playbook in Ansible, and with one button, we've updated potentially tens of machines, hundreds of machines. I mean, all the machines in my environment, I've actually updated and restarted just from one hit. And those of you guys with home labs know the pain of updating these machines manually every week or bi-weekly is really, really annoying. Having something like this can make all of the difference in the world and make maintenance that much better. So there was Ansible for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something cool out of this video and you have a fun new toy to play with. Um, Ansible is great. Highly recommend it in your guys' home labs. And you guys have a phenomenal day.